here we are, right? So if we're making history, then let's make history. Let's make history and open doors for other Latinx actors who are, on coming behind us, So it's like, let's start doing it, because it's like, it's just a feather on one of our hats is a feather on all our hats.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Pop Culture Planet, a video podcast centered around diverse voices and representation in Hollywood. I'm your host, Kristen Maldonado, a TV and film critic, content creator, and champion for inclusion. And today I am so excited because we're kicking off our Hispanic Heritage Month coverage. We did this last year as well, so this is the second annual Hispanic Heritage Month interview series. As a Puerto Rican and Dominican journalist, it is just so important to me that we shine a light on our Latinx community, and I'm so excited today to be joined by Harvey Guillén to talk about his groundbreaking role as Guillermo de la Cruz in What We Do in the Shadows, as well as what his experience was like growing up in a Latino household, and that just like innate drive to hustle that we were all taught from our Latino moms. I really had so much fun with this one, so I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Before we get into all of your incredible projects, I'd love to hear from you about what your relationship is like with your Latino heritage.
I'm really proud of my heritage. I try to display it wherever I can in the work that I do, even with Guillermo, down to the idea that he'd be at home with his mom and the way that he talks to her and using, instead of mom, using ama, that's very natural for me to use when I'm at home with my mom. And even down to making like the buñuelos that should have been in the background. And they were the wrong kind of buñuelos. They were like Colombian buñuelos instead of Mexican buñuelos. And they're both delicious, but totally different. Just the idea that it was important for me to be like, let's have the real buñuelos that Guillermo and his mom would have at home. And so I just asked them to get a packet of flour tortillas, some sugar and some cinnamon and some corn oil or canola oil, and like just fried them in that kitchen. They were shooting his house, and I just was like, we have to have them. I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I didn't know they were the right buñuelos behind me. And it does matter. It matters to see yourself, represented on screen, because growing up, I didn't see myself represented. I always saw like the funny, chubby white men, like the John Candy or the John Belushi, like all of them, but I didn't really see. And then if I did see a Latinx character, they were, cleaning the bathroom or, the gangbanger. And I was like, is that the only roles that I could ever play, And so the idea that I get to play so many different roles in my career so far is really exciting, from like sci-fi to thriller to comedy to horror. And to show that, because there's going to be a kid who's watching who doesn't see themselves represented, but if I can just do something where they can just say, hey, that guy did it, and it's like, yes, you can too, that's worth it.
Absolutely. And I mean, you have such an incredible journey as Guillermo in the show. Like, I'm just like rooting for you the whole time, and you're revealing all these little things that just like give you this like incredible like background legacy, in this world of vampires. It was so much fun watching you, kind of go from like someone who wants to be a familiar to like this guy was like a slayer, and your fight scene at the end of the last season was crazy. And I just love seeing that, because, like you said, we don't always get to see, us Latinos doing really cool, badass stuff like that.
I mean, like I said, growing up, all the things that were told were my strikes against me. Like I always said, I'm always round, brown, and proud. And those are the things that people were like, well, it's like, well, you can't be a badass if you're like above, a 30-inch waist, or you can't be a badass if, you're queer. You can't be a badass if you're Latinx. Like, it doesn't make sense. So to incorporate all of those things into one has been a dream come true, and love it, and love the journey for Guillermo, and can't wait for the next season.
Where did you first find your love of entertainment? Did you always dream of acting and singing and being in that space?
Well, I remember being 6 and watching TV over winter break with my mom, and she was a single mom working like several jobs, keeping, the roof over our heads. And I was watching this new TV show called Annie, but it wasn't a TV show. I didn't know that. We didn't have money to go to the movies. So I didn't know there was a movie theater. So the idea that I was watching this new show called Annie, I was like, what is this? These kids are just clean and dancing and singing. And I do that because we have to clean on the weekends with my mom. So I was like, what? You can be on television and clean? Like the orphanage? And so I remember looking at this and be like, Mom, that's what I want to be. I want to be an orphan. And she's like, ¿Qué? ¿Estás loco? And I was like, no, I want to be them. Like, oh, no, son actores. They're actors. And I was like, oh, I want to be an actor. She goes, no, son para niños ricos. And I was like, you got to be rich to play poor on television. And she's like, no, I mean, this kids who take acting classes, training. And Miko, we don't have that money, you know, like she was straightforward with me. And I was just like, well, how can I become an actor? It's like, well, you have to, you know, find your own way. And I was like, so I can't do it? It's like, no, I didn't say you can't do it. It's like, if you can find your own way, you can do whatever you want. And I was like, then I will. I'm like 6 years old. What am I know, you know? So we're walking home from school one day, and I had recently found out they were doing an improv class at the local like community center. And my friend went to her parents, and she got like a 20 and kept the change. And the class was like $12.50. And I asked my mom for the $12, and she said, no tenemos dinero. Because like, that's for the laundromat. That's for like, you know, paying groceries, electric bill. And I was like, I was feeling really defeated. And she saw that. And she was, but remember, if you can find your own way, you can do whatever you want. And I was walking home with her, and I saw this guy go through trash cans. I was like, Mom, what is he doing? I was a homeless man. He's all vende los botes. And I was like, you make money from trash? And she's like, oh yeah, at the recycling center, like at the Food for Less in the back alley. And I was like, great. So I ran into her closet, got a wire hanger, unhooked into a long skinny finger, got a bag from Food for Less, and started going through trash cans. And it took me 4 weeks to raise the money to take that 1 hour and a half class. And I loved it. It was just babysitting, really. It was like divided the 6-year-olds to like the 9-year-olds together, and then from 10 to like 14 together. And it was just babysitting, you know. It was, so they were like, okay, guys, you're lions now. And we're like, we're lions. Okay, you're a tiger. Great. You're a bear. Oh my, you know. And we just kept doing it. I just remember making people laugh. Like I never had that feeling of like I'm entertaining, and people were laughing at what I was doing, and it felt so good. And I just remember it had this crackle to it. And I remember when the class was done, I realized, do I want to do this again? Going through trash cans and crashing quinceañeras and throwing out modelos just so I can get the bottle, and then adults getting mad at me and chasing me down the street because I threw their precious beer away. Do I want to do that again? And I was like, yeah, I'll do it all over again. And so I just started doing like little jobs here and there to just play for like the small community, you know, center class, or a private like lesson, or a jazz class, or whatever I could do, because I knew that at the end of the day I had to be good at a lot of things. If those kids dancing and acted, I needed to do it too. So that's how it all started.
Wow, that is an incredible story. And I love that like hustle, even from, you know, 6 years old that you had of just like, all right, well, I'm going to like, you know, do whatever I have to do to make this happen.
Could have gone south really quickly, because at 6 years old, you could be stubborn, be like, I want it now, and cry. And I'm grateful that my mom was like, I never said you couldn't do it. I never said that. I said, if you wanted something bad enough, you can find your own way, you can make it happen. And that's my mindset ever since, you know. And so it's funny because now you see the final product and they're like, where did this come from? But you don't see the years of like leading up to the opportunity. It's like success over, you know, an overnight success is always funny to hear, because it's like you don't see the stepping stones leading up to that success.
Absolutely. And, you know, I love that, you know, that message from your mom of just like that you can do anything if you work for it. I feel like that's a very, you know, Latino mom type of thing, you know, like,
yeah,
you could do it, but like you have to do it yourself, and you have to figure it out. And that's something that I also keep with me as well.
And you got to do it. There's no thing as like, you know, like when you ask your parents for an allowance when you're 6, 7, it's like, allowance, ¿qué es eso? Like, well, my friends got money for like cleaning their room. You're going to clean your room because it's your contribution to the household, and you're not going to get money. You know, it's like, what, they get an allowance. No hay allowance. No allowance de que nada. You know, it's just the idea that like you clean your room because you're lucky we're putting a roof over your head.
Yeah, this is our house. Know, so clean your room. Do you remember like what your first audition experience was like? And have you ever had to deal with in your career, you know, like, you know, stereotypes or just kind of like feeling like you couldn't make it? And how did you keep pushing through that?
Yeah, I mean, I remember having, you know, auditions where it was so bad that the description of the character was just like fat guy, you know, and it was like, really, writers, like you can't give this character a name. And I remember like my agent, my first agent was just like, you know, it's this guy who lives next door and he's funny, and he just built it up. And I was like, oh, that sounds fun. And then you get the sides and it's just like, that guy number 1, Mexican. And it's just like, you don't want to like give it a little more thought process. Like, this is what you think. And sometimes, you know, you are going for the roles when I first started for like the roles that were like, yeah, he's the busser, or he's like the guy in the bathroom, like, you know, giving towel. Like, it was just like, is that how Hollywood sees us? Like, it's just like a whole bunch of people are just like, just working in your kitchen. Like, it's like, we do that and yes, and more. And so the opportunity to do those characters, was really kind of discouraging, you know, just like, oh, I want the role, I want to get the part, but I also don't want to like feed into a stereotype. And so I'm, you know, glad that as the years went by, like it was like doing roles that like I was really proud of and that encourage people and are inspiring, with Guillermo as well. So it definitely has changed, but it hasn't changed that much. We have work to do in Hollywood. So we've come so far, but we've got so far to go.
So you think it is changing? Do you think we're finally starting to see some of
I
that?
think it's changing. I don't think it's changed completely. I think that we are changing in the right direction. Even if it is one step at a time, I feel that it's better than standing still in still water, you know? And so I feel like it's moving towards the right direction, but definitely more work to be had.
Let's talk a little bit more about what we do in the shadows. I mean, like I said, this has been one of my favorite roles of yours, just to watch, you know, this character of Guillermo, you know, grow. And, you know, that whole reveal of like the potential Van Helsing DNA thing just like blew my mind. I was like, this is like the most brilliant thing I've seen on TV in so long. I just really loved following his character. And so, you know, going into this next season, are you guys gonna, you know, explore that a little bit more?
We are. We're definitely gonna pick up where we left off. So he kind of made a mess of the, you know, theater with the vampires, and now it's out in the open that he is a Van Helsing. And I couldn't be more excited, because we're definitely going straight into it. The consequences, he's being held captive. After saving the lives of his housemates, he's still being seen as a threat. It's like, I killed them because they were going to kill you. You see, I did this for you. And they're so self-absorbed. They're like, shut up, stop talking. We have to decide we're going to kill you. And it's just like, what? No. And so we pick up there, and he becomes their bodyguard. So he'll take that over death. And also, you know, after spending 11 years with a group of people, and that's all you know, that's your chosen family, sometimes you have a little bit of Stockholm syndrome. You know, you have a little bit like, well, where do I want to be with you, even though you're my captor. So it's a little bit of that, but everyone has their limits. And I think that you will see that this season Guillermo gets pushed to his.
Oh, interesting. Very interesting. And, you know, I thought it was so incredible that you recently were nominated for a Critics' Choice Award as the first, you know, queer Latinx actor nominated in that category ever. You know, how does that feel, especially coming out of a show like What We Do in the Shadows?
I was excited just to get nominated as a cast. You know, we got nominated for the show, and then when I found out that we got nominated individually, and I was like, whoa, that's great. So it was already like the cherry on top. And then the news came back that it was history making, that it was the first queer Latinx actor to be nominated ever. And I was like, that can't be right. I mean, this is 2021. I think that you guys have, wait, you know, you haven't, you have not. This is the first. So wait, but in the past you probably, no, you didn't. Oh, okay. That's a little problematic. It's just the idea that like, wait, it's this long, it's 2021, but here we are, right? So if we're making history, then let's make history. Let's make history and open doors for other Latinx actors who are, you know, on coming behind us, you know? So it's like, let's start doing it, because it's like, it's just a feather on one of our hats is a feather on all our hats.
I want to play a little, not a game per se, but a little like, you know, going down memory lane, a little real rewind, if you will. And okay. I want to, you know, bring up a couple of your past projects and just have you share like a fun fact about them. It could be anything. Okay. So the first one I want to talk about is Eye Candy on MTV.
Eye Candy was my second series regular. We shot that in New York City. And I got to meet lifelong friends like Kirstie Clemens and Victoria Justice and Casey Dietrich, who's actually has been my roommate in Toronto for a couple of seasons while he shoots his show there. We stayed friends all these years. People don't know that. I loved living in New York. That was a fun experience based on the R.L. Stine book. And I got to work with Catherine Hardwicke as a director, who's amazing. So that was a fun experience. I like Eye Candy.
Yes, yes. Like when I'm not doing this, I also work at MTV, and I remember like being there when I have an Eye Candy mouse pad.
Yeah,
it's so amazing with the blood in it, and it like moves.
Yeah,
so
I still have mine. I think it's somewhere in my desk.
Oh my God, yes, twins. The Magicians, another fun kind of.
Another fun show. The Magicians. Here's a funny story. I was in Vancouver filming a movie, and they shoot the magicians in Vancouver. And my agent in LA was like, hey, they're looking for this character. You should put yourself on tape for it. They're auditioning this week in LA. And I was like, okay, great. So I got the sides and memorized it and everything. I was about to put myself on tape. And the casting director in LA came back to my agent and said, oh, you know what? It's fine. We're going to have a casting session here tomorrow. And I think he might be too young for the role. So it's fine. We'll find something for him in the future. It's fine. Don't worry about it. And he's like, and he called me. He's like, yeah, don't worry about the tape. They're going to see people in person in LA. And I know you're in Vancouver, so you can't go. And I was like, well, I really like the character. And I really I'm drawn to him. And I would really like to go in. And it's like, well, they're doing it in LA. And I was like, wait, if they shoot here by SAG rules, shouldn't they have a casting office as well for casting locals here? And he's all like, you're right. And I was like, can you get me an audition here? And he's like, well, okay. So he went above and like went to the casting directors in Vancouver without letting know the LA director. And I went in person and they sent the tape to the producers. So the producers called the LA office and said, no, we found the guy. He's out of Vancouver. And I booked Benedict that way. And I recurred on that show for 4 years. So you have to go, like if you have a feeling in your gut, you have to follow your instinct.
Another great, lesson from Mom, the hustling. You found your way.
Yeah, I gotta do that.
I love that. Okay. Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist.
Zoe's has been so fun because, as you know, I fell in love with acting watching musical theater. And so it was full circle because on Zoe's, I get to sing several songs, one of them being Stronger by Britney Spears and Melissa Manchester's famous song as well. And then I just remember we actually did full circle because I got to sing Hard Knock Life with an old boy cast in that show, which just brought me back to my 6-year-old self watching Annie and watching those kids singing and dancing and saying, I want to be that. I want to be an orphan. I want to be an Annie. And I was an Annie. I did our own rendition of Annie on Zoe's this past season. So it was full circle.
I love that. That is like a fate moment.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And then finally, Werewolves Within.
Werewolves Within is a comedy based on the video game by Ubisoft. And it has an amazing cast. And people might not know this, but when the director asked me to be in it and if I'd be a part of it, I said, yes, that's great. I love the idea. It's something different to play. And also he recommended, who would you recommend as your husband and your partner in this movie? I was like, oh yeah, you know what? Someone who comes to mind is someone like Cheyenne Jackson, because he's musical theater, he's funny. I feel like I've never worked with them. We probably get along. And sure enough, they went out to Cheyenne and off of my request, booked him to play my partner, and couldn't have been the nicer, most sweeter person in the world. The whole cast was amazing. We got McKillop Watkins, we got Mills, we got Sam Richardson. The cast is insanely talented. It's just one of the best group of people I've ever worked with.
I love that you got to pick your partner. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is so funny. And do you want to dive back into that, musical theater space? Is that something that you're interested in doing? Maybe going to Broadway, maybe doing some other kind of, music in projects? I
do. I think that, when the time is right, I always wanted to do musical theater. I wanted to be on Broadway. And I think when the time is right, I'll be able to bridge over and do something. I would love to originate an original character in a Broadway show. That'd be great. But also open to ideas of doing something that's existing that I could do a twist on it myself. Why don't we do gender benders, and do instead of funny girl, it's funny boy,
Yes.
Do that.
So we got to, put this out into the universe. We're manifesting these things, all the good vibes.
We're sending it out.
We've talked already a little bit about how important Latinx representation is. How do you think that we can, just bring more awareness to that or get our voices out there more to make that happen?
I mean, for so long, I was waiting for permission, right? Permission for someone to let me shine, to let me be myself. Even the origin of my stage name, the idea that that's not my legal name is Harvey Guillén, and I grew up where people couldn't pronounce Javier, and that was very discouraging, period. And then as I got older, people were like, well, what do people call you for short? And Javi. So Javi was my nickname, and Javi became Harvey when I got a stage name from my agent, who was Latinx himself, was like, yeah, Javi, we could call you Harvey Guillén. That's a stage name right there. And at first a little discouraged because I didn't feel well, why is my name not good enough? It's well, everyone has stage names, which is really true. And now looking back, I'm actually happy that I changed it, because when I'm in a crowded room and if someone yells Javi, I turn around, and if someone yells Harvey, I know you know me from TV and film. So I'll I'll take a second, because it means so much to have separation for me now. It's like have separation from the craft and the work that I do as an actor. So you like this brand, right? You like Harvey's entertaining you and he's fun and this, but I go home with my family and I go home with my loved ones and they know me as Javi. And it's nice to have that separation. And it reminded me of this story that an actor friend told me that their moms were close with Brad Pitt's mom, and they asked for advice, and they were both actors, obviously. And Brad Pitt told my friend that if he had one piece of advice is get a stage name, because his name is no longer his. Then when he goes into a room and someone says, Brad, everyone has a piece on you and they all own you and they all can talk to you. I like to have a separation of when I'm at home. And if you know me as Javi, you know me as that. And when you know me as Harvey, then you like the entertainer and we'll have a conversation as the entertainer. But I like the separation of both. But it was a little disheartening growing up and feeling that. But then I realized it worked out for the best. But also doesn't mean that I'm not expressing how I feel about my heritage. So every character I play, even with Guillermo, I'm like, you have to have down to the buñuelos in the background, that have to be Mexican authentic. And I like that I'm using my platform to tell stories, entertain, first of all. And if it helps anyone who's coming behind me, entertainment industry to see themselves, then do it. But get a stage name.
Look at a stage name. Yeah. I love that. And I think that that's so powerful to be like, not only are you claiming like your heritage, but you're also claiming your own, kind of self-love, self-pride space.
My privacy is, it's very important to me. And I was just talking to two of my best friends who, weirdly enough, we thought about this in high school. I was the actor, and one of them would do my hair and one of them would do my makeup. And their name was Romy and Adriana. And now they are my makeup and hair team. Like,
I love that.
The three of us grew up to do what we always thought was just fun to do on the side and have fun with. And we never potentially thought this could be a career. And here we are doing this as a career, the three of us. And I have this picture of us in my high school production of Charlie Brown when they're next to me and they did my hair and makeup and I'm in the middle and I'm acting. And I was like, we're doing the exact same thing we always wanted to do for fun, but now we're doing it as a career. So it's wonderful. I'm looking at them right here in the corner.
Oh my gosh, that's a beautiful thing. And then, it's like you bring in the people, everyone's kind of coming up together, doing what they've always dreamed of doing. That is
and that's another reason that I'm a big believer in create content and help those around you. So I hired my sister as a writer or a producer, just because who knows you better than family and friends and whatnot. And also for so long it's been done, and in Hollywood with nepotism, you can't get in because it's the same group of people. So now then, if that's the way it's being done, then what's the shame in you helping someone who's a friend or who's Latinx and you want to see someone, bring up to the next level, then do it. Create content.
Nepotism working the right way.
Nepotism in the right way.
And speaking of creating content, I know that you're also going to be hosting an after show this season for What We Do in the Shadows. Can you tell us a little bit about that? After
the Shadows is going to be right after every episode. I started this as a thing to do for fun last season because we premiered right in the beginning of this world, pandemic. And I felt bad that we couldn't go to the cons and say hi to the fans. And I just felt like, okay, you know what? I'm going to go live on Instagram on opening night or the premiere night. And we'll have some friends pop in, they'll join my Instagram live and we'll say hi. And it was such a hit that people kept asking, I'll see you next week for the show. And I was like, oh, no. It was just, no, that was doing, this is a one time, what? I was like, you know what? Where am I going? I'm we're all safely at home. Is there a way I can do this at home? And I connected with my friends who work for a streaming service out of New York. And they're like, yeah, we could totally stream it on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube simultaneously for you. And I was like, let's do it. So I created a show based out of necessity to give back to the fans. Again, taking initiative, right? Taking initiative, making it happen. And then that created a job for my sister who was helping me produce it. We set up the lights. And this is the original set for last year's show. And we continue to use it. So I'm on set right now, which is a corner of my living room.
Yes.
The whole chair and the whole everything. So again, it was created out of love for the fans. And now we're doing it, and combining our powers with FX and with their support, we're doing it and streaming it through all the social platforms.
That is amazing. And I feel you. This is a tiny, tiny corner of my bedroom. All that over there, you don't want to see it.
Same.
And I love that you're creating your own content in that way with with FX. Do you have aspirations or goals to write or produce or direct?
I produced The Filth, which you can watch online, which is a friendship or a story about two friends surviving in Hollywood with the world of Hollywood and the entertainment industry who happen to be queer, and this is their everyday life and the connections they make and all that. So you can watch The Filth. That's something I produced with my writing partner, and she directed it, Jamie Holt. And I've also been writing and creating a new show that's coming up, and we're working with development with Warner Brothers now. So I'm always writing and creating and doing something that can create content for someone or create an opportunity or a launch pad for someone or a vessel, because you got to do it. You just have to do it. Even if I'm not on it, I want to create something that will help someone, use that platform.
I can't wait to watch. I'm gonna go check out the other project that you just mentioned.
Yeah, you should take a look. And if you want to see last season's, it was called Before the Shadows. So if you go beforetheshadows.com, you can catch up with all the episodes. We talked to Jermaine, we talked to Paul Sims, we talked to Stephanie Robinson, we talked to Haley Joel Osment, to Mark Hamill. We had some great guests come on the show, and this year we have a list just as good, and so we're excited. So this year is After the Shadows, so you can follow it on all social platforms.
Congratulations on everything, man. It's just so exciting to see, a Latino killing it. I love that work ethic that your mom has put forth of just, go for it. You can do it, just maybe in a different way, as long as you hustle, which that speaks to me so much. Yeah. I love that.
Thank you. And I'm thankful for my mom too, for making me realize that early on. And if that inspires someone, then, listen to your mom.
Exactly. That's the number one rule. Listen to your mom. If you like this one, you can check out more Pop Culture Planet right over here or on your favorite podcast listening platforms. See ya.